Welcome to this session on exploring the ER model. In this session, you will learn about defining the entity relationship model. Let us now understand what an ER model is all about. The ER model views the real world as a collection of objects or entities and the relationship between them. The following points further help us understand the ER model. It is an object-based logical model. It helps in representing the real world graphically as collection of entities and also the relationship between them. This model is ideal for database designing and was introduced by Peter Chan in 1976. The ER model mainly comprises entities, relationships, attributes. Now let us try to understand the ER model pictorially. The picture shown here depicts an example of a library. A library has lots of books. In this pictorial representation, library and book are the two entities. As the books are located in a library, therefore the relationship can be described as follows: a library has books. Now the entities, library and books, have certain characteristics. Let's identify these characteristics one at a time. The entity, library, has characteristics such as name and address. The other entity, book, has characteristics such as ID, name and author. These characteristics are called the attributes. In fact, the ER model not only helps us understand objects and relationship between them but also helps in representing the same pictorially. To understand the ER model better, you first need to understand what entities are. Chen defined an entity as a thing, which can be easily identified. It is any object, place, person, or activity about which data is recorded. It is represented as a box and is named inside the box in the ER model diagramming technique. Make sure that you always represent an entity in uppercase in the ER model diagram. Let us understand the two types of entity. The first type is a dependent entity, which depends on another entity. The second type of entity is an independent entity which does not depend on any other entity for existence. The next important concept of ER model is relationships. A relationship is defined as an association among entities. A relationship is depicted as a diamond with the name of the relationship type. Just like in real life, in the ER model also, there can be several types of relationships. These relationships are broadly classified into three categories: one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationship, many-to-many relationship. Let us further understand various ER relationships with examples and their pictorial representation. One-to-one relationship is the simplest kind of relationship. In this ER relationship, only one instance exists for an instance of another entity. Now let us consider an example of a team. The team as an entity will, of course, have a captain, which is the other entity. The simple relationship between them is that a team is managed by a captain. This is a direct one-to-one relationship. In one-to-many relationships, only one instance of an entity exists for multiple instances of another entity. For example, if you consider two entities, customer and account, it is quite obvious that one customer can own many accounts. This is referred to as one-to-many relationship. Similarly, many accounts can be owned by a customer. The last type of relationship is many-to-many. In this type of ER relationship, multiple instances of an entity exist for multiple instances of another entity. Let us consider an example to get more clarity about the concept of many-to-many relationships. Two entities, student and teacher, have a teaching relationship between them. Many teachers can teach many students. A class has many students. The students in a class have different teachers teaching different subjects. This, actually, is a perfect example of many-to-many relationships. Therefore, you have seen that in a relational database management system, varied types of relationships can exist between the entities. Let us now summarize all that you have learned in this session. In this session, you learned that the ER model consists of entities, relationships, attributes. In one-to-one relationship, one instance of an entity can relate to only one instance of the related entity. In one-to-many relationship, one instance of an entity can relate to more than one instance of the related entity. Many-to-many relationships map to tables. One-to-one relationships are not very common and may map to foreign keys in tables. Thank you and happy learning.